If you're somebody who obviously has a very low and very inside club head really early on, the next step would be combining the takeaway work with some P2 to P4 work. Position 2 is when the shaft is parallel. Position 4 would be when you are at the top of the backswing. So position 3 between the two is when the lead arm gets parallel to the ground. If you are somebody who is now getting comfortable with a better takeaway and you are no longer rolling the club head inside and you're finding the appropriate amount of not only forearm rotation but also vertical and horizontal hinging to keep the club head either in line with the hand path, a little outside, a little inside is fine as long as it's not an extreme. Then the next step would be combining it with an impact ball drill, which I will show you. And I'm actually going to use a toy ball that I got at any local kids store to get you to stop doing the reaction of the internal rotation on the trail shoulder. Don't forget, when a golfer rolls the club head really low and inside, what we tend to see as a reaction to this is a lot of internal rotation on the shoulder, which is what we explained is the best way for the golfer once they're here to stand the shaft up. It's not a good movement necessarily, depending on the golfer and what they're trying to accomplish, but it's the best option they have once they've created this penalty move here, right? And that gets them really up and across and very internal. What I will do with the golfer once they start fixing the initial takeaway is I'll combine the two drills. So we'll actually keep the alignment stick here, and then what we'll do is take a ball. So this is literally an inflatable toy ball that I got at a local kids store. There are plenty of great training aids that are out there that exist. The Tour Striker Smart Ball with obviously the strap around your neck. There's the impact ball that you can see with the different colors on them. And what I'll do is I'll get them to put this ball somewhere an inch underneath the elbow joints. And we will work on not only still doing the takeaway pattern where they're not rolling the club head really inside, but then between the end of the takeaway and the top of the backswing, I'll get them to feel as though they're squeezing their elbows together really hard. What that does is keep the trail arm in a little more external rotation, specifically the shoulder, so that they do not get into too much freedom, very internal pattern. It's not the worst thing in the world to be internal at the top of the backswing. Like I said, depending on the golf swing, and I explained this in another series, you can get away with having some level of internal rotation. But it gets to a point where if you have a short swing and you're very inside and then very up and across, there's a lot of movement and a lot of timing required to fix that. There are better ways to swing a golf club that are simpler with less moving pieces. It will make it more repeatable. So you're going to take this ball and you're going to put it between your forearms about an inch under the elbow joints. And from there, what I will get that golfer to do is not only continue to work on making sure that the takeaway is a little more in line with the hand path, not so rolled inside like we mentioned, but then once they get into this position here where they have the appropriate amount and type of hinging, from here, once they start to stand the shaft up to get to the top of their backswing, I will get them to feel like they squeeze the elbows together. That way they can get a little more in line with the shaft to the target, not so up and across and internal. You can see when I do this appropriately, I will keep the ball between my forearms. If I get into a scenario where I roll the club head inside and then I have to internally rotate the trail shoulder, you will see a loss of structure generally between my arms and that ball would fall. And right now it fell and rolled away from the camera view. So what I want this golfer to do, if you're somebody who's working on getting rid of that bad takeaway habit, is I will get them to, first of all, work on correcting their main issue, which depending on how you go about it, there's different ways to fix it, right? If you're somebody with no hinge, or if you're somebody with too much flexion and very horizontal hinging, then I would get them to add a little bit of some verticalness to their hinging as they're going back. This will combat the very inside takeaway and it'll get them a little more in line. Or if you're somebody who just has a lot of forearm rotation, I would get them to feel like they're actually rolling the forearms the other way, keep the trail arm above the lead side and so on. This time they will be able to get the club head a little more outside the hands of the takeaway as a feel. So that's without a doubt the most important piece of it, because the takeaway is what creates the effects that we see later on. But then once they start to get comfortable with this, then we'll add in correcting the effects, which is obviously the compensation of the internal trail shoulder and so on. So if you are somebody who gets into this scenario now here, if you used to be a forearm roller, then as you start to go up, you can feel like you squeeze the elbows together to get into some better structure at the top of the backswing where they no longer have to be out here. Is it impossible to play good golf from that position? Absolutely not. Is it easy for the average golfer to play golf from that position? No, there are better, simpler ways for golfers to do it. My job is to simplify the game for the average golfer. Tour players can do what they want. They have a ton of skill, a ton of time to allocate to hitting balls and so on. It is two different types of golf being played. So if you are somebody who has a lot of early forearm roll, very inside takeaway, start with these drills, start getting you on a better path to success. The game will get a lot easier for you.